We've got a brand new Thor, this time written by Donny Cates with art by Nic Klein. How's it hold up? It's a relaunch Thor, so how are we going to begin this journey? Let's check it out. Hey, this is Perch, and it's 2020, and we've got a brand new Thor comic. And this, if you're counting and being a little bit generous, this would be the sixth volume of Thor, although that's technically not very fair, as there's been a bunch of kind of interruptions and relaunches and other things. But Thor as a character has been with Marvel since the 60s, and there's been a ton of talent on Thor. I mean, one of the things, if you just step back for a moment and you look at Thor and kind of its history, you've got a comic that had people like Stan Lee and Jerry Conway and Lin Win, Walt Simonson. The Simonson run on Thor alone is just legendary. Then you have Ron Mars, you have Warren Ellis, you've had Jurgens. You've had just a ton of talent. And in the kind of relaunch mode, you had J. Michael Straczynski, you had Matt Fraction, you had most recently Jason Aaron. And Jason Aaron just completed a very long run on Thor that gave us Jane Foster as Thor for a period of time. And the God Butcher and some other stories that were both loved and also controversial, although decent selling. But keep in mind also, this is a comic that's attracted Kirby and Walt Simonson and John Romita Jr. and Andy Kubert and again just Oliver Copiel, some amazing talent. Alan Davis has been on it. Saad Rebek, I think, who's going to be a legend, already is, but just as time goes by. So a lot has really gone on with Thor. And he's been every time they relaunch it, it tends to go with a kind of the King is weary kind of run. J. Michael Straczynski and Matt Fraction both emerged from kind of a rebirth aspect of Thor, and Jason Aaron to some extent as well, telling kind of the journey to be King Thor and kind of relationship with Odin and other things. But it's always kind of the crown is heavy has been somewhat the theme of the last several relaunches, and it is here as well. So here we have Donny Cates, and it starts off with a pretty cool scene right off the bat. The artwork here is definitely has a Copiel plus Rebek feel to me anyway. It's scratchy. It's got some kind of unfinished qualities to it that works for Thor. I'm going to be curious how this works for Cosmic, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But the art is fine enough. I think it looks good. I'm hoping this is an artist that's going to stay with the book for a decent length of time. Donny Cates has managed to keep talent on Venom. Let's hope he actually does the same thing here and we get a nice run with an artist. But we get this bit where Thor is addressing the kingdoms, and he's doing so through his hammer that he's throwing across all the realms, and even kind of ending it up by helping out the Avengers with what's maybe a mole man type character, just murdering the hell out of it. But the cool part is that just he's able to speak to all the realms. Tony Stark does a little jab at him, but we get quickly back into Thor is in Asgard, the city in the sky, home of the gods. Thor is looking kind of rougher. All the characters in Asgard have been shuffled around through the last run. Sif is now the new Heimdall, if you will, the all-seeing, and that's a new role for her. Thor is the king, and like we've seen in multiple runs previously, the crown is heavy. He's not terribly thrilled with it, but his duty is there. Kind of a Game of Thrones vibe you get off of this. Even though he's not happy with it, he's also kind of wise, and he's making people, he's shouting orders, get out of my room. Makes Loki bow later in the story. There's kind of all these aspects that feel like it's both a combination of kind of the Game of Thrones, I know what I'm doing with my crown, and also I'm reluctant to take the crown. It's a conflicted Thor, and it mostly works. It is the problem is, if you've been a longtime Thor reader, parts of this seem old and parts seem jarring at the same time, and not necessarily in the right way. If you're a newer reader to Thor, then probably this is a pretty interesting take. If you really didn't care for the Jason Aaron run, then this is probably a nice kind of relief of seeing the pieces put back into place where they belong, so to speak. So we get some cool, again, the artist Nic Klein's doing a really good job of the atmosphere, filling the panels, filling the page, even when there's nothing going on and you just have a blank background, it's bringing the focus to the expressions and things of the characters. So again, even though his artwork is rough in how it's presented. There's a lot going on here. Just the little details are very nice. But the piece of Asgard, and there's a brief little conversation with Loki that goes on here that sets up maybe kind of the dynamic that we're going to get from them in the future. But we immediately get to good old Thor, and Galactus kind of ruins the parade. Now, Thor has had a few interactions with Galactus in the past, but this hasn't been one of his, I would say, stable of villains or interactions. So we're going into space. So we're going to tap into Donny Cates's Thanos kind of chops. We're going to see Cosmic Ghost Rider here in a minute, but we're going to kind of tap into that side of the world. So even though Nic Klein has done a pretty amazing job, I'd say, detailing out Asgard. It's very rich. There's a lot of detail here. It looks cool. He's provided some neat new things to Thor's throne. We're skipping that, and we're going to a story that's going to involve Galactus. We get another one of those totally obnoxious stand soapbox things that I really wish Marvel would stop at this point, because they feel ghoulish and wrong. But anyway, sorry, that has nothing to do with the comic, but just remembering that. So Thor immediately jumps into action, but Galactus is all effed up. His right arm is pretty much gone. It's missing. He's just got a stump there. And with Galactus's arrival, we've got the warning of the Black Winter. The Great Black Winter is coming, which is quickly described as this was the thing, gone by many names, that ended the previous universe that Galactus witnessed and escaped to become Galactus in this reality, in this version of events. Now, if you've read Al Ewing's Ultimates and Ultimates 2, we've gotten some other glimpses of Galactus in that previous life. Those two aren't really humming together completely. We're getting a different take on things. We're kind of ignoring some of the things that were done in that run, but that's okay. We're humming along. This comic is going to be read and sold quite a bit more than that one was. But Thor, calls his summons. He quickly is interacted with. He said Cosmic Ghost Rider is here. Thankfully, he's not doing the Deadpool bit. And we've got Silver Surfer arrives, who is still Black Silver, which is something that Donny Cates did in his quick limited series that I think will come into play more later. It's this cooler, more metal looking Silver Surfer. I get it, but again, the image, Mobius's image of Silver Surfer as the silver kind of shining light will always be burned in my head as kind of the classic Silver Surfer. But anyway, that's as an aside. So they're warning of the Black Winter is going to be horrible. It's going to destroy reality. It's rotting the tree, the world tree, and Silver Surfers come up with basically a plan where Galactus can feed on 5 special planets that will give him more powers, and that will be a good thing. So Thor gets all suited up in his I would say classic costume, but it's only classic in the last 10 years or so, 15 years maybe. Anyway, his J. Michael Straczynski look, and he wipes off the hammer, and he heads in to go talk to Galactus, and he makes Galactus kneel. The Silver Surfer gives him his plan, but Galactus has a different plan, which is basically he's looked into the end. He's looked into the universe dying, and he's seeing at the end, the embodiment of his death is Thor. So he immediately then shines his powers on Thor and converts Thor into his new herald. And this is the springboard. This is going to be the thing that both pushes this book forward and also subtly erases a lot of things that came before, because Thor's got his arm back, both his eyes are working. Maybe, also with blue glowing eyes, he's got a big old long, flaming an 80s style metal band hair, and he's got his cool little Thor costume has been updated, and we'll see again. This is one of those costumes that I think Nic Klein pulls off very, very well, and I'm going to be questioning how it looks with other artists. But another little thing in this comic, by the way, I skipped over, is kind of the subtle tease that Mullinger is getting heavier, and why is that? And immediately the thought process back to Jason Aaron's run and kind of what spun out of Original Sin, that he wasn't worthy to hold the hammer. So why is the hammer getting heavy again? Kind of wish we weren't going back to that, at least. And the outcome of that tease likely to be very different from what Jason Aaron did, but because that was such a thing for many years of Aaron, it feels like, oh God, we're doing this again. But hopefully, again, that's in the background. Right now we've got Herald of Thunder, Thor. We've got a nice little note by Donny Cates. And if you bought the extended, super expensive director's cut version, you get a ton of covers by a bunch of different people. Nice one by Art Adams. A really kind of who's who list of really cool Other than, where's the Walter Simonson cover? Good Lord. Give me a Walter Simonson cover, please. Maybe I missed it, but I don't believe it exists. But anyway, a lot of nice content in the background. A lot of, you get the standard, what's become standard for Marvel with these issues is to do the director's cut, if you will, of a bunch of different, the script is there and the pencils are there. And you get to see kind of the whole comic come together from pencils to inks to colors. And that's always really, really cool kind of stuff. You get some really nice designs, layouts, and pencils by Nic Klein. I guess I want to throw out a big, this guy is doing some really impressive stuff, really thinking through kind of the panels and the layouts and how things are going to be put together, really testing a bunch of different things. And so Nic Klein, really good work here. Just very impressive, nice care that goes into this comic. So it's a new Thor. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. I think it's worth, checking out. It is, time will tell, of course, how these things land and how they go. And if there's more beyond the initial pitch of, Thor goes cosmic and is a herald of Galactus and big bad metal crap rains down on everyone. I mean, cool. Let's see if that can be pulled off. Hoping so. Wouldn't it be nice to have a nice, powerful comic coming into the new year? As you see things kind of straightening out with the X-Men universe, you've got, Daredevil in really good hands right now. Venom is clocking along. Nick Spencer's doing some nice things with Spider-Man. Needs to kind of get to the point a little bit with some of those. Thor being a strong title, and the Avengers kind of, if the Avengers can now get back together, it's a meandering kind of mess over in Avengers. So getting that pulled together would go a long way to Marvel just shoring up everything and putting some nice stuff in place. But good issue, worth checking out. Is it for you? Yeah, I think if you didn't terribly love Jason Aaron's run, you want to see some things happening, you want to see Thor interact with some new people, you want to see more of the mythology in that art, then yeah, it's probably for you. It's a nice little issue. People who don't like it, I mean, I don't know. If you don't like Donny Cates' storytelling, if you didn't like Thor, you didn't like Cosmic Ghost Rider, sorry, not Thor, Thanos. You didn't like Thanos, you didn't like Cosmic Ghost Rider, not a fan of Venom, you'd skip this one because it's the same voice, same narrative, probably not for you. And if you've never terribly been into Thor, you're not really into kind of metal 80s, let's go, blow some shit up, then maybe not for you. But, it's a fun issue. We'll see where it goes from here. As the first issues go, it feels like there's some good meat on the bone and you get a good value. Not sure if the director's cut, you get that much value. That's a much more expensive issue. But if you like to see some of this stuff, see how Nic Klein kind of came about doing his work, I've been curious how Donny Cates writes comics, then worth picking up. Anyway, what did you think of it? Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe. Always happy to have your subscription. And yeah, like I said, follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.